Continuing on with the meeting. Item 4, consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. Anything in consent agenda that has questions or needs separate consideration? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Actually, Brett, you need to take over as clerk.
Thank you. One moment, please.
Did Eric?
And Mr. Schrader left, yes.
Oh.
Must have been something you said.
All right.
Had nothing to do with the closed session.
I did not see Mr. Schrader leave. So Brett leaves too.
And there were none? Wow.
You know what? I didn't see Brett leave either.
Makes me a little nervous now.
All right. Let me know whenever you're ready, Mr. Hayes.
Certainly, Jerry, you got all the information, motion and second on so far?
Yeah, it just takes a little bit of time for the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll coordinate with you after the meeting then. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item, I think we should move 5 to the bottom. Project update. Dan. Thanks for
Hi,
coming.
Dan.
Did they feed you? We had extra food back there.
Did not know that.
But there's churros.
There's churros.
Still.
Yeah. Make sure you get one on the way out.
On the way out. Now you're kicking him out.
Okay,
Maybe he wants to stay.
for Mill Valley.
Which hour do you want to go?
The last of the windows will be going in this week. Final painting is kind of underway in all 3 sections of the addition. Casework's going in. Epoxy floors are starting. And we'll be setting the remaining rooftop equipment later this week. They set some pieces over the weekend, and still one truck of a few pieces that will be coming in a little bit later. We installed the fire pump last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, as well as the well pump and equipment. So all that's getting tied together, and we'll be filling an underground tank and getting permanent water to the building. Final well depth was 380 some feet deep.
How deep was the other one? What was it?
It was 90.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was pretty shallow. We did a pump test and we passed with flying colors, so we're in good shape there. At the middle school, we're wrapping up structural steel. We're putting the last of the metal deck on in the band and choir rooms right now. We're continuing with brick in all kinds of different areas around the building, and windows are going in as fast as they can get glass. And race of winter that's approaching. The roof is about 50%. The gym's been done for a while. They're kind of converging over the library now in the 2-story component, and then we'll be headed to the cafeteria for a little. We got interior stud framing is going on in the lower level on the south side, and they just started the upper level south side, and then soon we'll be moving over to the north side of the upper level. Got some conflicting emails from the DNR, but hopefully by the end of this week we'll have a reviewed water main, which will then trigger our ability to start the water main around the building and still have a chance at getting the parking lot.
So our optimistic, you have not looked at the weather reports.
Yeah, later this week doesn't look so good. Hopefully it'll warm back up. So hopefully by Friday we'll hear some good news from the DNR. We're having our pre-install meeting with the city on Thursday afternoon, just so we get that out of the way so we can start as soon as we get DNR approval.
Any questions for Dan?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
Dan.
Moving on to item 6, student representation. He left.
Looks like he
But
left.
he left a report, so I will read it.
All right.
Because I'm back in high school. This past Friday, our Muskego Warriors football team rolled over the Oak Creek Knights with a 42-7 win. They will continue their playoff run at Racine Horlick. The Muskego cross-country teams, both boys and girls, will continue on to the state competition at Wisconsin Rapids following a successful day last week at the JV Rocket Invite. This victory matched the varsity team tremendous victory matched the varsity team at the WIA sectional, where the boys earned and placed at the state meet for the earned their place at the state meet for the 5th time in a row. This marks the 10th time the boys will be competing in state competition. Looking forward this week, the juniors will be taking their practice ACT tomorrow during hours 1 through 4. This Saturday, Student Council will be running the annual Spooktacular event for the kids in the community. Farther out, the musical this year will be West Side Story. Auditions are October 30th through November 3rd. The final performances will be February 22nd through 25th. This completes my report. Any questions?
Thanks, Colin.
Hearing none, moving on. Public forum. Do we have any public here? No. Any of the non-public want to talk? Moving on to item 8, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Thompson.
Well, welcome to our first rotating board meeting of the year. It's so exciting. So thank you again to the high school administration for hosting this evening, and it is your show now. Todd and Christine, Andy, and Ken, thank you very much.
Where are you guys performing? Here or?
Yeah.
We need a little extra space, so
Heard something about singing.
there will be, well, minimal singing tonight, but unless there's a request.
You take requests?
We do. Mr. Dummer.
Request you don't sing.
Mr. Bablinka said he would dance if requested as well. So he is quite rhythmic.
I like dance. Dance, yeah. Let's see dance.
There's some dance on YouTube I saw. Oh, that was you.
Nope. I was supervised from that. You can't do that. That is strictly the matter. I'm more worried about them. Well, again, thank you very much. It was interesting earlier tonight as we were kind of waiting for these to start. Ms. Brooks stopped in and she was talking about how excited she was to talk about several of the things that have been working on. And it was one of those where it caught me. Like, this is really a cool thing that we have the opportunity to talk about what's going on in our building. I was thinking back about a few weeks ago when we celebrated some of the things and we spoke as a secondary level. But a chance to really focus on what's happening in the high school is really something we take great pride in. And also kind of reaffirming some of the things that you heard earlier. So to begin with, kind of framing for you the quality report. So that reflection and looking back on last year's eye on the goal and making sure that we're paying attention. When we set a goal, how did things work out? Did we hit the target? And if we didn't hit the target, what did we learn from that journey? And then how do we reframe our challenge and look ahead to the next year? So tonight we're going to kind of walk through with Dr. Thompson frame for you our focus, which really is on the same 4 pillars that our entire district is focused on. And again, still feeling somewhat new to the community, I will tell you, it is really inspiring to be a part of a district that genuinely lives its mission and focuses on how do we work together as an entire K-12 system to meet the goal that we set. Because it can't happen in pockets and it can't happen without us working together to truly meet the needs of every unique student that walks into our system. So these 4 pillars are truly the center of all of our work. It shouldn't matter if we're at an elementary school or here at the high school. We're going to start out focusing on continuous improvement. And my own bias is I feel extremely lucky to work with an absolutely amazing leadership team. So I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Bowden. Each of us are going to talk about a couple separate portions tonight. But Ms. Bowden's going to start us out talking about our continuous improvement goals from last year.
Power of the clicker.
So our first part is looking at the parent certification results survey. We started off at a 3.73 and improved to a 3.86. So really looking at how we can meet the needs of parents and families and students in our school district. So we've continued to do this, the parent satisfaction survey, but we also do feedback around parent-teacher conferences, feedback with parents and students about the most effective ways that we can communicate also to get better information and more informed decisions. Our next part is just looking at our student growth. So our district goal was to move from a 35 SGP growth to as a district, and we had a 59 SGP growth at the high school level. So the STAR is I know you guys have heard the word STAR before, but the STAR is our district universal screening measure that's given 3 times a year at the high school. But more important than even the student growth part of it is the fact that last August, the 4 of us collectively stood in front of our staff and asked them to make literacy matter, make our data matter to our students, but really like make make it matter to you. So don't do something because we're asking you to collect the data or to improve. Like you're reading pieces in your classroom, do it because it's going to make a difference. Do it because it's why you became an educator. Do it because it's what we're committed to doing as educators. And so out of that initial conversation at the beginning of last year, and over the course of our reading journey for the last couple of years, we had teachers collaborating in small groups. We had teachers observing other teachers in Socratic seminars. We had our literacy committee that Christy ran, looking at our plan for moving and reevaluating our current literacy programs at different levels. We also had, we developed and continue to build some in-building teacher leaders that have done an awesome job and who I feel like are also highly responsible for some of the growth that we've seen. So it's been really awesome to watch.
Question for you, Christine. Just so I can wrap my hands around it a bit, because student growth is a very big telling factor for me in how well students are succeeding. What would be considered like a typical growth for a student going, just an average student going from 9th to 10th grade?
So like 35 would be an average.
That's an average? Okay.
Yep. So
Wow, okay.
we were at 50 today, which is awesome.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
thank you. Great question.
Kind of connected to that as well, one of the things that we challenged ourselves with last year was closing the gap. So we try to look at some desegregated parts of our population to ensure that if we have our average student moving ahead, how do we make sure our students who might be behind, how do we make sure they are actually growing at a higher rate? We unfortunately didn't hit that goal, but again, when we talk about as a system or as a building, what do we need to look at to continually improve? It's data and metrics like that. Other high stakes measures, part of our exemplary teaching and learning category, is taking a look at the high stakes measures that we're compared to when we look at other districts around the state, things like the Aspire. Again, our continued focus on literacy, is it working? So the professional learning that we're engaging in. So last year when our staff chose personal professional goals around improving their literacy strategies, did that learning work? Did we see an impact on the students? Because if we engage in work as a group of adults, for us to assess its effectiveness, it has to make a difference for students. Some of the measures we look at are the Aspire. We saw some cohort growth. So if you look at the 9th grade group in 2015 to their performance as sophomores in 2016, we saw a 4% increase. And we look at a separate cohort, the next grade level, the current class scored 55%. So we're excited to see that growth, and we're excited, hoping that the work that we're doing is the right work. This same success was also seen on the ACT in reading, where again, that group continued to show some improvement. In a year where the state actually went down, our group actually went up. However, when we look at our overall ACT composite, we are currently at a 21.8 for all of our juniors, which is a number that is, again, above the state average, but to be honest, it's below our county. And our county is where we really want to compare ourselves, and this is a number that, to be honest, hurt our staff's heart. When we talked about this at the end of last year, we looked at the data over the summer, it was a definite point of contention, and it was something that I would describe as a call to action. That being said, tests are just a number. Why I'm so inspired by our staff is it always comes back to our students, and what is the experience that our students have. So when we talk about student engagement, yes, it shows up as a number off a survey, but it truly comes into what is the experience of a student. We use that number in lots of different ways, and one of the things that we were excited about is our number actually went up, but in addition to improving, we are getting more students to participate in the survey, because again, as our mission states, we want to make sure that every single student here feels connected, that they feel like this is the place that they belong, and that they can have the best chance to experience the success that we believe is potentially here. For that to happen, we also highly value staff engagement. It's our belief that our most important resource here are the people who sit in front of our kids every single day. We were humbled and excited by the growth of our staff engagement over the last couple of years. Again, thinking about what does it mean as a parent to have a teacher who stands in the front of the classroom, who absolutely loves what they do, who believes the work that they do is the most meaningful work there is. I think back to last year's award for top workplace, and I think about the results in this, and it feels really, it's just exciting to think about a staff who genuinely cares so much about our students, who believes in this work. Things where this shows up are things like staff who lead missions like creating a Warriors family. Staff who pay attention to the things that are happening in the classroom, to the things that they hear. They hear about students who are hurting, families who are hurting. And they rallied together to come around with ways, how do we help students? How do we make sure they have their needs met so when they show up to school, they can actually focus on being a student? They're not worried about, are they going to be able to buy lunch today? I don't have a clean t-shirt to put on tomorrow. I don't have a sweatshirt. I need shoes for gym class. These are the things that our staff behind the scenes rallies around and cares about. It's really, really awesome to be a part of stuff like that. Think about what it means to have a staff who cares and who believes in their work. Again, going back to that concept and perhaps my biased opinion that our greatest resource are talented teachers, 99% of our staff were retained last year. Staff who care about kids, staff who are willing to push the limits and make it a fun place for students to show up. I mean, who wouldn't want to learn physics from Captain America himself? I mean, if you can't learn physics there, I'm sorry, you might be in the wrong place. Again, the staff who last year set the goal to make a difference in kids' lives, to ensure that every single student who walks through our building has a positive connection with an adult in our building. And how do we use that relationship to leverage them to the power to help them understand that truly their call to action is to go into the community and make this world a better place. That's the stuff that our staff is centered around. So as much as we look at the high stakes measures, this is the stuff that happens behind the scenes that I think really helps MHS be the special place that it is. So all of this kind of contributes to the celebrations. The other measures that we think reflect very positively about the students here are our participation in high stakes college level rigor continues to go up. Last year we set a new high for 874 different tests administered in our building. And not only has our participation continued to climb, our success continues to be exceptional and well above the state average. So we are creating an environment where students are willing to take the risk, and our staff is supporting them and pushing them to believe that they can, and they're showing that they can when those results come back. Other celebrations happen across the board, whether it be in the fine arts, the amazing things that happen in our PAC, our cheerleading squad, our dance squad participating at the state championship level, our athletic programs do exceptional work, and we continue to focus on how many students are connected in co-curriculars and what happens when they do that, when they have great academic experience, when they enrich themselves and they become well-rounded adults. Things happen like scholarships to the tune of $4.4 million of scholarships that were awarded to last year's graduating class. That's the stuff that when we look back, gets us excited about what's happening in the Muskego-Norway School District. But it also helps us look ahead to what do we need to do to fully live our mission. Because as much as those numbers look great, we all know in our hearts that there's students that maybe didn't hit those numbers. And there's other students here that maybe aren't experiencing those things. We think about the professional learning and the focus that we have as a group of professionals to ensure that we are working on our skill set, that it's not a gap on our end as far as do we have the strategies we need to connect with a broad range of learners. We had a chance to talk about this again at a board meeting about a month ago, and you heard more in depth in this. The only thing I will say is how cool was it to hear a high school junior talk about annotating text. I mean, you can expect it from us as school professionals to say, this is important to interact with your notes, to highlight, circle key words. But to have a junior in high school be able to say those things that we know through research supports great learning, that just to me gave me goosebumps to watch Ben do that. This is the right stuff. We're excited about it from a learning standpoint. But again, this is what we'll be doing to focus on the strategies. But what else has to happen if we are truly going to live our mission and ensure that every single student that comes here is connected? There's some really cool things happening behind the scenes. This is one of the things that Ms. Brooks is excited to talk about, the Qualtrics project. Again, us paying attention to the things we're doing and what has a really positive and powerful impact on our students. So the two different columns that you'll see there, that top row, they're both from last year's graduating class, the class of 2017, and it took a look at their performance throughout their high school career. So that top line up there are students who graduated last year, who had a 95% attendance rate or better in their freshman year, and who participated in 2 or more clubs throughout their high school experience. So they had an average ACT composite of 22.2 and an average GPA of 3.1. So if you came to school and you showed up 95% of the time and you got connected, you are prepared to be in the driver's seat to choose some colleges and pursue whatever aspirations you might have. And again, we're not just about preparing students to go to college. We're not saying they have to go to college, but we want every single kid to be in the driver's seat to make that choice for themselves. If you come to school and you get connected, good things happen. Below that, you see the numbers of students Again, the cohort of 78 students who fell below 95% attendance and who did not get connected in our building, they had an average composite ACT of 20.3, and their GPA was a full half point lower than their counterparts who did. It matters to get connected. It matters to show up to school. If you get connected here, good things are going to happen. So again, our why is trying to figure out a way, how do we get every single warrior in this building connected with something? Extremely excited to have the partnership with our new activities director, his passion for creating new ways to get every student connected. Asking questions like, where are our populations that aren't hooked right now? So last year when we looked at that number of students who were connected, we had 1,370 students that weren't something. Well, what about the 300 who weren't? And what can we do to get every single student who walks in these doors connected with an adult who cares about them and helps them find their passion and helps them find their own why? So we're excited about those different things. Excited for the partnership in our activities office who's working on different ways to get connected with our community members as well. And then as a staff, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Babalinka, who will talk about our staff.
Do you want to keep the clicker and I'll just point? Bad things happen when we get the clicker.
This is true. This is work well. We won't let him have the clicker.
I'm not there yet. So, you mentioned earlier that you were excited when you were talking about juniors highlighting and annotating text and taking notes. I thought it was really cool when the freshman in college came back and shared that she's still doing it. I thought that power was pretty cool. So this is the portion where we talk about the things that we're doing in our building to keep students meaningfully engaged in learning. Mentioned earlier, focus on attendance. We'll talk more about that. But these are some of the things that this is copied out of our building's eye on the goal document, and who's kind of tasked with leading each of these things. They're all awesome. They're all powerful. We could probably spend 15, 20 minutes on each one. We're not going to be able to do that tonight just because of the format, but they're all awesome things. As each of you is in the building, or any community member still present is in the building, feel free to reach out, ask us. We'd love to share the rest of this too. One commitment, we know that 95% attendance is kind of a magic number in Muskego. If you're at 95% attendance as a freshman in 2 activities, you have a 3.1 and a 22.2 GPA or ACT on average. One of our commitments as a leadership group working with our staff was to get students in class focused on their learning to start the day. We changed a little bit of the procedure. Any student who's late now has to walk the length of the building and come in the front door. We made it a little harder for them to get in the building. It also made our building a little more secure. You can see the two columns in 2016-17 compared to 2017-2018. That's the number of first hour tardies in our building. It's down roughly 25% over the first 35 days of the school year. Ken printed this out. He got excited the other day and gave us each a graphic of this and wrote on it, "We make a difference," and we really truly do, because we work with great staff who are committed to getting kids in the classroom. Huge impact. It's not as big as I'm hopeful for. I'd really like to cut that number down further. One thing that some of you may wonder is, why did the number of excused tardies go up? Likely because we called home on every single contact we've had with a student. We've had over 200 contacts with students the first 35 days, and we've followed that up with a phone call home to kind of push that partnership. Parents are really appreciative that we are actually holding kids accountable and getting them in class. So that's that side. And this is just a comparative from 2013-14 school year to this year, kind of where our attendance trend line is. And truly, attendance is one of the biggest engagement indicators. Kids who feel like they're engaged in relevant learning, that's rigorous and it's relational in its approach, are going to want to be in the building. And you can see that we're holding pretty steady. So far this year, we're at 96.6. I think it's actually 96.65 attendance to start this year, which is outstanding, and we're hopeful we can keep that there. It's going to take a partnership in our group, district office, and every member in the building to get it to the point where kids are willing to come to school regardless of what's going on. And that's my transition to Mr. Dunbar. Who gets the clicker?
Since you're doing such a great job, we'll just let you keep the clicker. So you are hearing a theme, yes? Student engagement, staff, administration that cares about kids. We want kids to do well. And every student learning, growing, succeeding, right? Students that want to be in our building, students that care about our school, students that respect our school, don't participate in extracurricular activities per se that lead them astray, right? And sometimes that can lead to misbehaviors, suspension from school, both in school and out of school suspension. So Granted, we have a very small sample size at this point in 2017 to 2018, but if we keep things going, the trend that they're going, we're looking at a really nice improvement in decreasing the number of both in and out of school suspensions. Again, we feel really related to our commitment, our staff's commitment to engaging every student and finding a way to, make a connection with every kid. Walk into any elementary school in our district, most districts, you'll see a data wall in the conference room, in the room where teachers meet, where the principal meets. You'll see data either with a student's name, face, perhaps graphs, different data, right? Fairly common. Why do we do that? It's really powerful to put a face of a student with information. We have lots of information, we have lots of data about our kids, right? But when you can put a face with a student that maybe struggles in a number of different parameters, perhaps, with attendance, with grades in math and reading, with attendance, we put together a really neat idea. We kind of sat around and just brainstormed, how can we make sure that we are focusing on and identifying those kids in our building that are at risk? Who can we rally behind? A phrase actually coined by one of our staff. Our staff has really bought into this idea of, we've identified, if you will, students in our building, grades 9, 12, that are struggling. And we put a face with that information, shared that with our staff, and our staff really has appreciated that, has rallied around this rally wall idea. And it's had a really nice, powerful impact thus far. I think there's one more. Oh, sorry, I thought there was another slide with a testimonial to that. I guess.
The gist of it comes back to the concept that oftentimes we talk about data and it's easy to get caught up in the numbers and the trends that we see there. And one of our challenges to our staff this year is to take a look at every single number as the individual behind that, because that number is to a parent the most important thing in the world. And it's easy to look at trend lines. It's easy to look at this large level data. And yet at the end of the day, each one of those students goes home, hopefully, to a parent who that's the most important person in their world. And we want to make sure that that's the feeling that when they come to school, they're connected with someone in our building that helps them feel that way as well. So we're continuing to focus on those engagement pieces that we feel will make our building a safe place for students, that will help them feel connected, help them feel supported, and help them to really relieve or get that sense of belief in themselves that this is the place where they can achieve their goals and aspirations. So, questions on any of the multiple things that we spoke to briefly?
Go ahead. I have two questions, not related at all. I've had an opportunity to be in the building a couple times this year. It seems like the staff, when you talk about staff, that we're just trending younger and younger and younger. Does that change how you do your jobs at all?
Saying the staff's getting younger?
Yes.
Is that you getting older?
No.
I love that question because it's something that also, to me, reflects a bit of pride in our staff. When I think about the power of mentoring, there is actually, I think, a healthy balance of experience on our staff, and there is a strong sense of pride in the culture that's built here. And I go back to our end of the year last year in our retirement celebration. And for the first time, we had 7 staff retire in my time here. It was huge. And I think of it, and it makes my heart hurt when I think of the collective capacity that's exiting the system, their ability to share what things were like, and the comments that they shared. And 2 people spoke very powerfully around the statement of, this is a great place, and now the challenge is up to you guys, speaking to our staff as a whole. What will you do to continue to move us forward, and what responsibility do you have to take in whoever is filling our spot and help them understand the importance and the privilege it is to be a teacher here at Muskego. So with the influx of new talent, there is an energy and an excitement, and from our veteran and our experienced staff, there is a passion and a commitment to help make sure we all live the mission, and that is something that we fully embrace. It's not something we put up on a poster and it hangs in our classroom and we never talk about it again. So there's pretty positive synergy around it.
And then just one other question, going back to the AVID presentation that the kids gave during dinner. How does a ninth grader get into the AVID program? How does a 10th grader, 11th grader get into the AVID program? Is it something they know about and they ask, or is it something that they're recommended, that maybe this would be a good program for?
It's a combination of a lot of things, actually. So we're hopefully, looking to expand the AVID elective. We started off small, so we started off with that initial 10th grade full year class when it first started in a half semester. At that point in time, it was really done by what we would refer to as like an academic middle. So students who were not necessarily like your 4.0 students that were really already doing very well work without additional support. And it wasn't students who were struggling for numerous other reasons that I could get into. So the AVID is a nationally normed program. And so students, we as a system look at attendance, we look at discipline, we do look at teacher recommendations, we look at test scores. I don't have the criteria in front of me, but there's a list of criteria that is given to us from AVID. The focus for us this last year was really, well, first we needed to grow the program, right? We needed to start somewhere. The students do fill out an application and then go through like an interview process. I just had a great thought, it's gone. Just gone.
Can a student
Kelly, help
jump
me
in
out
after
there.
the fact? Yes, they can.
Family history with college.
Got it. First generation college. So like first generation college, we accept almost all students who are first generation college. That's kind of like the heart of the kids that we're after. This upcoming year, we also really want to focus on students who have like low SES status, because some of our students don't have the same types of supports in their home environment that other students do.
Goal being finding populations that may have been traditionally marginalized through our system and helping them make sure we align resources to help make sure they've got the best chance possible to, again, be in the driver's seat to pursue whatever their aspirations might be.
Kind of a cool thing I just want to add to, and it came up repeatedly, kind of in themes. The influx of AVID strategies into AVID has started to trickle out system-wide, creating common language in the building, but also even starting to create common language K-12. It's pretty cool. A lot of literacy-based strategies, organizational strategies, note-taking. The things that the seniors and juniors spoke of today, our freshmen who aren't even in AVID are learning and not knowing where it came from. They're learning how to take Cornell notes, how to highlight, how to annotate.
And really why we're pushing AVID school-wide. What we're doing in the elective program is tailored, and it's specific curriculum and specific pieces that go along with the elective, but the strategies that we've identified through the PDSA cycle, through a lot of the work that we did last year, those are all tied to AVID school-wide, all tied to like the high leverage literacy strategies that we have on our document for this upcoming school year. So students that are, with what Andy just said, the strategies that you're going to see in an AVID elective class, you're also going to see in social studies class, in a science class, and actually, like, true story, had our AVID parent night here the other night, and, true story. We had our AVID parent night here the other night, and a freshman parent said, this is great, like, but is my child only going to take Cornell notes in AVID? And I didn't have to answer, because I had AVID students here, and one of the students turned around and said, no, I take them in world language. I was like, oh my gosh. I take them in history, I take them in science, and named teachers off. So I didn't have to answer that question because the evidence speaks for itself. So whether or not, where the elective is specific, but school-wide, it's flowing out everywhere. And it's best practice, and it's what moves kids forward. So I hope that answered your question.
I a question. One of the things, and I know a number of schools are having problems with out-of-school suspensions. To some kids, it's almost a reward. What are we doing when we have to use that tool to not make it a reward for those students?
Great question. Again, my bias is I don't know that detentions or suspensions change lives, but the relationships and the restorative approach you take to having those conversations with the student, with the family or the parents or support systems in place, and helping them understand what along the process, who did they hurt, who did they harm, and how do we make it better, that's what really changes it. So out-of-school suspensions really by most students are perceived as a reward, and yet sometimes for the good of the whole, you need a student not to be present or visible in the school setting, because we do hold high standards for our students and we won't ever compromise that. But that's where we are now trying to, when possible, utilize an in-school suspension where we can keep them in a safe space where they're not sitting at home playing on Xbox or PlayStation, and have an adult in the room that we believe is relational, who will say, hey, now's the time to be working, not sleeping. Here's the work you are missing because you're not sitting in class like you're supposed to be. So it's just more opportunities for us to have the right conversations to come back around. You are here to be a student, and your learning is your top priority. Let's not remove you from learning opportunities. Let's help you understand what you did was not acceptable here, and how do we keep you back on track so you're not falling behind and becoming less engaged in our building.
So basically, when they're out of school, though, that's up to the parents to not make it a rewarding experience.
Correct.
Which can be a struggle, I know.
Correct. So we do lose control. That's one of those things where we speak classroom teachers, once you kick a kid out of class, you've lost the opportunity to influence that student during that time, yet sometimes it does have to happen. Same kind of thing as a building administrative team, we feel like once we've kicked a student out of our building, we lose the opportunity to influence them and help them understand why do they need to make better choices, and what is their why for being here, and helping them get connected back to their goals.
Do we work with them in any way to try and, when they're serving the out-of-school suspensions, to try and get them to understand why this is so bad, not just for the students to have them in the school, but for themselves, because they're, I mean, I know it's a difficult thing to try and do, but is there anything we can do to?
That is everything in what we do, and that's where, again, honestly, our biased opinion of you, that's why our number of suspensions are declining over the past 3 years, is we do have those conversations with every single disciplinary action that happens, and whether it be, we require a parent contact when a student is suspended out of the building. So it's like we sit down with the student and the parent and we have that conversation, and it is really about the actions and how it hurt someone and what was the thought process around that. And it really is as much around the learning of that experience as much as it is about the consequence, because the consequence is the thing that kind of happens to them. We want them to understand what happened to create this and how do we avoid it, what are their safe outs. I'll use the drug and alcohol thing as well, and we're honestly excited about the partnership with Rosecrans. Historically, it would have been a black and white 5-day out-of-school suspension if you used, and we really didn't have anything restoratively to help them make better decisions. We would try to have them meet their counselor, and if they would follow up as needed. And now we have a program in place that's educational, that if a student is caught using a substance, they're required to do a self-assessment with an AODA counselor to say, okay, what is my pattern of behavior around using and why am I using? So we can get more to the root cause of the behavior and hopefully help them develop the coping skills and strategies to avoid the destructive behaviors that they might be engaged in.
Thanks.
Other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you again for hosting also.
Are you good?
The next item is Qualtrics, redefining ready, and actually Christy's going to walk through this. Just a little background, you might recall that last year we had in our eye on the goal, departments, our cabinet had a goal to look at dashboarding, and so Tony and some of the people that he works with really helped us work through a process to kind of identify a product that we would pilot this year to see whether or not that would be fitting our needs. Tony, is there anything else you'd like to add to the background?
Yeah, it's been a great starting point, and fortunate to have someone like Christy to jump in head first and really develop a system that provides feedback on the data we're using and give us that view that we otherwise wouldn't have. So really nice step. So thank you for that, Christy.
It's always my motto to jump in the deep end, so.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a deep end, but you jumped in head first. So.
Michelle and
All right.
herself well.
If we could just turn to see the screen. Some of this presentation is available in board docs, but most of it is going to be live. So it's going to be very fun. All right. As we, as a district, have been moving towards identifying college, career, and community readiness, we've kind of toggled between two items. On the left here is our vision of a graduate. You've seen that. It's about 1.5 years old now, and it really drives the work and makes sure that we're focused in providing students an opportunity, not just academically, but other areas that are going to help students be prepared for college in the community. The one on the right is a document that dates back to 2012, and it's been revised a few times, but it relates to our achievement data, and as we see our students preparing to be successful post-secondary and what those indicators are. Now, when you look at those two documents, they're very different. The one on the right is all about achievement data. It's reading, it's math, and it's the ACT. The one on the left, just a portion of it is achievement. There are other things like self-knowledge, civic engagement, skills, habits, health and wellness. And we really think about, like, how do we quantify some of those things that we may or may not have an assessment for? And so when we look at what the state requires of us on our state report card, and this is an old report card, but on every report card, there is a section here that's called post-secondary readiness. And the pieces of data that the state finds value is graduation rate, attendance rate, 3rd grade reading, and 8th grade math. Sorry, math came off on my chart here. So those are the things that the state is looking at. And again, it's a lot of data. Last spring, we talked about something that's sweeping the nation that's calling Redefining Ready. And about 40 states are looking at how do we measure post-secondary success in students. Is it the ACT? Is it math and reading data? Is it attendance? What is it that really indicates somebody is prepared beyond high school to be successful? And how do we measure things like whether you're adaptable, or whether you're a good team player, or whether or not you're engaged? How do we measure those things? And there's a lot of research, including a document that I included in board docs that's fantastic, that talks about both indicators of success and predictors of success based on research. Some of those things include attendance, participation in 2 or more co-curriculars or activities, 3rd grade proficiencies in reading and math, taking an AP class or another college level course, like CAP, for example, scoring a 3 or better on an AP test, participating in community service, social emotional competence, and more. And again, I attached an article. It's not lengthy, it's super easy to read, but it's from the American Studies for Research, and it talks about indicators of success post-secondary. So as we are piloting Qualtrics this year, and Kelly asked us, why don't you guys think about a project where you want to try to visualize your data? I immediately thought, I want to know if what the research says is true for our students. Like, does it matter that they're in 2 or more co-curriculars? Does it matter that they take AP classes? Does it matter that their attendance is good? And if it does, then that's great. That's power for us, because then we can drive our strategic actions around things that we know works here in Muskego. So this is the part of the presentation that I'm going to go live. And this is my Qualtrics dashboard, and it has the 2017 graduating class in it, all students. I'm on the wrong slide. Here we go. So we'll see the average composite ACT, reading, math, their GPA. Now, one of the indicators to success is that students take an AP class. So if we look at just those students who last year took 1 or more AP classes,
That's what happens to their data. These are our kids, last year's graduating class. If those same students scored a 3 or better on those 1 or more AP classes, that's how their data got impacted. So we know taking rigorous coursework impacts achievement. Not just taking the coursework, but taking it and being successful. One of the other indicators to success is 3rd grade reading. And I had one of my elementary friends explain to me that from kindergarten to 3rd grade, students are learning to read. Beyond 3rd grade, they're reading to learn. So if they haven't mastered proficiency in reading by 3rd grade, they're not learning to read or they're not reading to learn, and they're not acquiring the same information that their peers who are proficient. So these students took the WKCE when they were in 3rd grade. And here's how the students who were proficient or advanced did on their ACT. Isn't that cool? More importantly, the students who were not proficient or advanced, that's where they were, but those are the same kids who took an ACT or an AP. If I take this down to 0 and this down to 0, those students who were not proficient in 3rd grade have an average ACT of 20.3 and an average GPA of 2.8. So reading proficiency in 3rd grade matters. The research said it matters, and it shows up in our own data. It matters. Taking rigorous coursework matters. And one of the other indicators, let me just put some of those back for a second. Taking algebra before high school, having algebra by 8th grade, is an indicator of success. So if we look at just the students who completed algebra by 8th grade, that is, oops, I'm sorry, I have to change my proficiency here to students who were proficient. So those students who took algebra by 8th grade, look at these numbers. I mean, we are like heading into the Madison requirements here. And another indicator is Algebra 2, receiving an A, B, or a C in Algebra 2. I'll just show you those who got an A, those who got a B, those who got A's, B's, and C's. What's neat about this program is we can take data and we can go big, small. I can narrow in on gender, students with IEPs. I said gender, males, females. We can go back to their 3rd grade data. I can look at their 8th grade data. I can look at students who took at a certain class during a certain year, compare it to their attendance, their co-curriculars, et cetera, But the real point is that we know, based on research, what are predictors of success. And the data would support that those things are predictors of success. So when we go back to our own definition of what does readiness mean, it's not just about reading and math achievement, but it's about teamwork. It's about being in co-curriculars and learning how to work with others and how to manage your time. It's about being at school and having good attendance so that you can be around your peers and our fabulous teachers. It's about being engaged. All of those things help create not just students who are going to be successful in college, but our community as well as their career. So we look forward to learning more about Qualtrics. We just wanted to show you a little bit of what we're working on right now. That dashboard is about 10 days old. Michelle Murphy is one of our programmers, and she worked really hard behind the scenes with the data and working with the platform to help us visualize those things. And I think we're just tapping into the power of this program, and we look forward to being able to make really strategic decisions with us. Any questions?
Okay, so that's great. We get this data and we see where kids are more likely to succeed. But a lot of these kids are going to be taking the AP. What are we doing to try and get these kids to do what they need to do to take the algebra by 8th grade,
Right.
to get their quantitative scores up for third grade reading. Have we approached that yet?
Absolutely. There's a direct alignment with our 3-year PD plan, where we are systematizing our approaches for reading engagement and attacking complex text, academic conversations and having students really interact and be able to use material, student questioning, student-led goal setting, student voice and choice. All of those things contribute to providing students those innate and almost instant ability to be able to complex, rigorous coursework like AP coursework.
We're also taking away some of the gatekeeping that happened over the years about who could take an AP or who should take an AP or who should take algebra, and really opening that up and saying, if kids have interest and they have the supports and we can provide supports, then let's let them do that. Let's soar. Let's let the students soar. So there are some belief concepts too, just in educators' minds about who should and could.
But you're still gatekeeping to some extent, I hope. I mean, just because you mentioned a number of things. Okay, so a student wants to take the class, but I at least hope you're checking into some of the other stuff of, do they have support? Do they have...
Right, absolutely. So if they don't have the support at home, how are we supporting them at school in order for them to access that? That's our job.
Okay.
Yep.
So are we transitioning more from gatekeepers to, I don't know the right word, but trying to ramp these kids up so that they can take and succeed at 8th grade algebra and things like that, rather than, as we mentioned, gatekeepers? Is that what we're trying to work for?
So next year, math in particular starts the PDSA cycle. And so one of the goals from that particular research will be coming around our current math program and how are we currently addressing preparing students for algebra by 8th grade, and what are other districts doing, and what is other curriculum out there saying. And so we'll start to look at that starting next year.
I think it's going to be, for the students that we need to, it's going to require a lot of personalized learning in that.
And that was actually part of our pathways that Christy showed earlier. That was one of the pathways that students would take algebra by 8th grade and receive a C letter. So it's been on our books. We just have to, this is just affirming, this Qualtrics and our data is just affirming some of the things that we knew we had to get to and prioritize.
So have we adopted this now, or are we still piloting?
We're still piloting.
Okay. And when you make, sounds like you made a decision, or we're...
No, we're like Christy said, it's 10 days literally that we've put data in. We're starting to work on some teacher data and looking at teacher effectiveness and things like that. So we have lots of input yet to go. It's looking promising, and that's why we wanted to show the board that we're really pleased with how this tool can help us further focus.
I guess the stats that's fine, but we're talking about the product itself, I guess, more so than what it can pull out. So that's more where my concern is. This stuff you can pull out probably from 8 different software products.
Yeah.
So is this one that will eventually lead into having a full-time programming position that we need to keep plugging in, or is it user-friendly enough that staff can feed it?
That's a great question, Rick. Actually, we as a cabinet, we're committed to entering our own data, but we're working with Michelle, and we are using our current staff level. We haven't increased anything. And really, it's as we move along, it's just entering the new data from that year. Everything else stays. So input with any program is always the most important.
Well, that's more where my questions are leading. What the end product is, and like I said, 8 different ways to get there. I'm more concerned about user-friendliness, adaptability, how this will grow with their system and things going forward. We've seen so many different software products come and go through this system, and none of these are cheap.
Right.
So the idea of doing the research on the front end, so we're not bailing on this in 5 years.
Yeah. And that's what we did take last year to review a number of programs and software products, and that's why we felt like, okay, this is the one out of the ones that we studied that seems to be the best, but we didn't want to dive in at first, but wanted to make sure that we were being prudent about it.
How far down can this drill to the student level?
It can. The data that I have in here is by 800 number, student 800 number, as opposed to names. That's just how I chose to put the data in. But would be able to drill down to student.
Okay. And then when you take, obviously you have things in here such as activity levels and stuff like that. Will you be able to pull up easily information as a cohort of, say, okay, a basketball team has their average GPA is this, just from this?
I don't have the basketball team in here,
But I'm in theory.
but yeah, I
Okay.
mean, anything, we pull it right from Infinite Campus. So however Infinite Campus has it labeled, if it's a co-curricular, and then if it's divided by co-curricular, we would be able to pull it that way here.
Because some of that information, doing it that way, where you can pull it by team and not have to share the specific names to somebody else and let them figure it out, just, it seems nicer from a system and more, you know, I guess privacy levels and everything are there easier to.
See, I really like and appreciate the flow of this. I'm curious, like Infinite Campus is a tool that we use to engage parents. Could this also be a tool to engage parents where I could see benefit, I don't know cost, but I could see a benefit where if parents had the ability to plug in data at that early age, and they could actually see the power of what this data is showing, because a lot of what, I mean, you know, I question a lot of just parenting engagement, and at times if we're, not that we're not doing a good job or trying to, but, you know, any friendly tool that would help demonstrate, okay, here's why you need to be engaged with your child's reading at this early age, or here's why it's not just us, blah, 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 right? I mean, here's the data that you're able to show, and they can plug in that data, and they can see the value of an AP, they can see the value of this, because I mean, in general, unless you have parental engagement, that probably makes your job a lot easier, right? So I'd like to know more on that, if there were, if this could ever be used as a tool.
So is
Where
there?
they're interacting, you're saying.
Yeah,
Right.
so is there a
Parents are
public
actually
interface access point where you can segregate or control privacy issues, but allow, almost like the DPI website, where you can go through on districts and pull out all that different information based on your own queries? If it had something like that, that would tie very strongly into our transparency and wanting to keep information out there without sacrificing privacy.
Because this is user friendly, actually.
Right.
And if I'm looking at my child's grade in Infinite Campus, which, you know, I'm expecting it to be up to date, and then if I can say, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I can use this tool, and I can use this tool, and I can genuinely, maybe I get it then, or it's a turning point for a parent to say, hey, maybe I need to do this or that, or here's why I need to encourage greater oversight over that, right? Just a thought. Another note, I just have a question on the district group report card. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that student growth. I'm surprised, actually, that we scored low in ELA.
That is 2015-16. So that is an old report card that you're looking at.
Okay. Okay, oh, that was the example. Oh, that's not.
Yeah, I
that
just
was
used
in
an example
barcode?
because, yep.
Okay, so we don't have those yet, right? That's still,
Right,
they're
It's
still in
embargoed.
barcode, right? Okay, all right, thank you, sorry.
Sure.
I just have a quick comment, sorry, Rick, about the Qualtrics. I understand it's 10 days old, and we're just really kind of scratching the surface on this. I just, and I appreciate all the data. I think in the future, I would like to learn more about how this is going to change what we do going forward. I quite honestly don't see the benefit of showing a ninth grade parent, well, this is why your kids' scores are what they were, because they didn't do very good in reading in third grade. You know, that's great for our reference and our data, but I guess I want to see it going forward, how it's going to change and dictate how we do things.
How
Sure.
we're going to use it.
How are we going to use
Yeah,
it to do things better?
So one example, you know, just for late last week, we got the third grade reading data in there, and it was the drastic contrast between those who were proficient in third grade and those who were not. and their academic results in high school. And the elementary principals, when seeing that, had never realized that the research that says reading by third grade is so important, that when you look at it from our own system, it's like, wow, 50% of our kids last year were not proficient in third grade. Now, since that time, we have, Jeff piloted, when he was still principal at Muskego Elementary, a data process where teachers did rapid cycles of student achievement data using formative assessments and then adjusting their curriculum. And it had such great success that that has now gone district-wide. So we have teachers looking at real-time data on kids and making instructional decisions so that we can close the gap faster for kids who are not proficient and be more timely. So to answer your question, what can we use this for? That's one of the things we can use it for, is to become aware as a system, what are the things that are high leverage and should be priority areas, and then coming up with actions that can go down to the student level to make a difference.
So the pathways document that Christy also showed earlier, we're using this data also to help revise that. So it can expand it from just saying at third grade reading and math to something, maybe something about civic involvement. And so it's going to help us identify and better articulate what are those indicators along the path of the child so that we know whether or not we have to intervene if there's an indication here something's not right on the pathway. How do we intervene and support students? So,
I mean, if anything, this certainly, to Dean's point, points out all the research that were shown regarding curriculum, AP, and any of the elements, I guess, of the curriculum from elementary, middle school, or high school. If they can capture that, that's pretty much a proof positive, whether or not, if the research is actually coming, is to develop a hybrid approach between research that works based on the data. So I see the benefit of the data, but yeah, to Dean's point, I mean, I think down the road it's got to prove itself, right?
Right.
That we can use it, but...
And data lies. I mean, they can. I mean, are they getting a 3.4 in high school because they did well in third grade, or did they do well in third grade because they're 3.4 student going forward? They're just smarter.
So it's really important longitudinally to
Right.
track that and
Track
see,
that.
are more students getting 3s on APs? Are more students,
Well, and keeping history, because you're talking about what was proficient in reading in third grade when they were in third grade is different than what's proficient now, because the standards change and all that. So they may have the same reading level that they had back then, but what counted as something back then doesn't count the same now. So, I mean,
Well, I'm
just be
mostly
careful
interested
about
in
that.
seeing what we're going to do with it and how it will help, especially individual students. And you said that can drill down to the student. I'd like to see what happens if you can get a student that's borderline proficient to get them up to proficient, how will they do going forward. So it'll be interesting to see what you do with it.
Yeah. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Moving on to other reports. President's report, I have none besides thank you for all the hard work that you guys put into the annual meeting. I know it's a lot of work for 6 people that show up, but but we appreciate it. So you guys do a good job on that. Clerk's report. The clerk is absent, but there isn't.
Yep.
Oh, we do have a clerk's report. You can read it.
A notice of school board election will be published in the Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017 edition of the Waukesha County Now. 3 seats are up for election as follows: Eric Schrader, Dean Strom, and Lisa Warwick. Beginning Friday, December 1st, 2017, district residents who have met eligibility requirements may file declarations of candidacy and campaign registration statements at the Educational Services Center, South 87, West 18763, Woods Road, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. The deadline to file is 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018. A primary election, only if necessary, will take place on Tuesday, February 20th, 2018. The spring general election will take place on Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018. Candidates who are elected at the spring election will take office on Monday, April 23rd, 2018, and terms are for 3 years. That concludes the clerk's report.
Thank you.
Very nice. But I have a few things. One is to commend the music department for a wonderful choir concert last week Thursday. Of course, well attended. It was the first one of the year. Some wonderful pieces. I heard from the students that having the extra week, as painful as it was in August, paid off for the choir concert because they had all the pieces well memorized. So it gained them a little bit of a time. And also for solo ensemble, I know I saw Dean there and Mr. Buckmaster, to all the work from music friends, parent volunteers, women's club, Triumph students. Again, very favorable comments. It was wonderful to listen to the students get judged and the feedback they were able to receive. And then the last is, in light of the clerk's report, I will not be seeking re-election. So I will be finishing up my 12 years come April. And it's a difficult decision, but in the next few years I'll have many changes, including being an empty nester and retiring from my real job. So I want to leave the options open. So, hopefully people in the community step up. It's a great way to serve and to learn. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, too.
Thank you.
Committee reports,
Wait,
I'm sorry, do we have any other board member
Yeah.
reports?
One reminder that the State Education Convention is January 17th to 19th, and I believe Dara's taking registrations to try and get kind of a bulk registration going. So if you're interested in attending, see her. And the other is, Lisa, I'll be sorry to see you go.
Thank you.
Any other board member reports? Dara, you can sign me up for that whenever you get a chance.
Do you have me signed up, Dar?
Not yet, but I do now.
Dar, you send me
Since I have to
Thank
go.
you.
With a happy heart.
Just think there'll be all kinds of new people now, or at least one, that we could have signed the next time. Moving on to item 10, resolution action items. 10A, 2017-18 budget.
Excuse me one moment while I look up. What's the all-funded budget?
I have it for you.
Thank you.
And it's going to sound really big because we have Fund 43 with the referendum. So it's 97,898,646.
Thank you. Motion to approve a 2017-18 all-fund budget of $97,898,646. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Would somebody make that motion?
So moved.
Would somebody second that?
Second.
Discussion? Question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Move on to item 10B, 2017-18 tax levy.
Everything's correct on the motion, correct, Julie?
Yeah, it should be. Let me just double check. Yes, it's correct.
Motion to approve a tax for general district operations in the amount of $25,845,510 for Fund 10, for debt service of $108,356, Fund 38, for debt service $4,879,956, Fund 39, and for capital expansion $1,445,556, Fund 41, for a total combined amount of $32,279,378 to be levied on all property, real and personal, which is taxable under state laws within the Muskego-Norway School District for the purpose of financing the operations of the public schools of the school district for the year 2017-2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 10C, MHS pool construction.
Motion to approve Myron's bid to construct a new 8-lane pool at Muskego High School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 10D, 2017-18 salaries.
Motion to approve a salary increase for all workforce groups as described in closed session.
Discussed in closed session.
Discussed. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Passes with one abstention. Moving on to item 10E, purchase of ATV.
Just moving along. Motion to approve the purchase of an ATV from Proven Power in the amount of $22,248.25.
Someone make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Jeremiah, you want to explain what that is?
Sure. Yeah, at Lake to Noon, we had a truck there for plowing, and essentially we brought it in for repairs. It wasn't running this past summer, and we got a call back from the repair guy that he felt that the repairs exceeded the value of the car itself. So the undercarriage was starting to deteriorate severely. We needed a whole new brake system. Rather than spending more than the value of it to repair it, we were able to get more than that, or at least $4,000 on Wisconsin surplus by selling it. And rather than purchasing a whole new truck, we feel that for the work that is needed of the vehicle, that we could purchase an ATV similar to what we have here at the high school. So hoping to be able to do that.
What's the life expectancy of an ATV used for plowing?
Well, we've had the one here at the high school probably since 2004, so we get pretty good life out of it. We keep them indoors too, which really helps in the garage.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 10F, policies and administrative guidelines.
Motion to approve second reading of policies and administrative guidelines as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I had a couple questions, but I'll ask Kelly offline if that's okay. I don't think it's just clarification.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to 10G, gifts, grants, and bequests.
Motion to accept with thanks the gifts as noted below. From Test Corners Elementary School, from the Test Corners PTO, $8,000 towards the purchase of iPads for students. And from Muskego High School, from Muskego High School Cheer Booster Club, $1,066.41 for the MHS cheerleading program. From the Muskego High School Girls Basketball Association, $2,500 towards paid volunteer position. From the Inpro Corporation, $500 for MHS robotics. From Cognex, $1,000 for MHS robotics. And from the Girls Swim Dive, $1,361 towards the compensation for volunteer services over and above a paid co-curricular contract.
Could someone make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to discussion items 11A, 2017-18 budget. I'm guessing no one has any questions about what we just approved. Moving on to 11B, CBC recommendations.
Christie? Yeah, it's that time of year. The Curriculum Planning Committee, as you know, any new or modified course goes through a three-part approval process. It begins in spring when teachers submit their ideas, and an administrative board looks at them and provides feedback. And then it goes to the Curriculum Planning Committee, which is comprised of administrators, teachers, sometimes the community. And so this year we have a number of items that we're really excited about. There's really three budget sources I wanted to highlight for these courses. The first is from the Teaching and Learning Department budget, $26,000. The second is from a CTE incentive grant that we received the end of last year, early summer. So $39,715 will be paid for through the grant. And then school buildings or department budgets, $3,100. So I'll start with the middle school. At 5th grade, we're proposing a new course called Games and Animation. And this is really it's kind of a two-part class. It maintains keyboarding for students, but in a very personalized way, because what they're noticing is more and more students are coming into 5th grade with keyboarding skills from elementary school. And so if students don't need a whole unit in keyboarding, they can get right into coding. But if they do need some keyboarding, we still have that option for the students. But the bulk of the class is really around games and animation and coding. So they're going to be learning things like drawing in a game lab, things like functions using the game design process, and some other coding language that I'm not completely fluent on, variables, sprites, the draw loop, counter pattern unplug, etc. The teachers are taking what students are coming from their elementary school coding clubs and really expanding it. But they also realize that not all students are in a coding club, so the course is going to be completely personalized based on entry level of the student. One of the reasons why computer science was such a focus for some of the courses is because that was an area that we identified through our Education for Employment plan as needing to improve our systems within computer science. The second class I'd like to highlight is Dollars and Cents. That is a class we currently have, so it's just being modified and revised, and it will be available for all 6th grade students. You see the number of topics that is already part of the class, but what the teachers are going to be including in addition to the current curriculum is banks and credit unions, pay yourself first, savings versus investing, stock market simulation, credit card versus debit cards, and budgeting. And that really came from our parent feedback of parents being very interested in financial literacy for their students. If you recall, in spring we had sent a survey out to our middle school parents. 97% of them said they would like financial literacy skills as guaranteed curriculum for their students. The next one is a FACE class. It's called Becoming Independent, and it really takes FACE 5 and Kid Biz, which is currently a 6th grade class, takes the best of both classes and combines them into one. So it's really just the essentials of becoming independent, learning how to cook for yourself, food safety, and then child care, life skills, babysitting certification, Shaken Baby, which is part of the HDD curriculum and a state requirement. And then just really knowing that from this point forward, students may or may not take a foods class. So it really just prepares students for just basic life skills. At 7th grade, we've got a new course being proposed called Careers and Community. And it's a two-part course. One is looking at students' interests and their skills and having them explore different careers by inventories, research, talking to people in the field, career fairs, etc. And then the second part of it is a community focus where students will participate in a community learning project or a service learning project. Based on some of our Redefining Ready research of college career community ready, we know through that research that community service is so important, and this is one way for us to allow our middle school students to start community service even at a young age. The next class is web design, and that class is just being modified. It's going to maintain part of what the current class is, but it is going to add some problem solving relating to programming and kind of just update the curriculum a little bit there. Very excited about the BMIT app workshop. For next year, it's going to be students who are creating apps to solve problems. Moving forward, the department would like to connect arms and link to the high school BMIT Center and create more of a personalized learning environment for students to do projects in multiple areas. So it's kind of a two-phase process. Next year they'll just be doing apps, and then they'll grow their program similar to what BMIT does at the high school. AVID, as you heard tonight, has been successful at the high school, and starting next year we're going to be moving it into 8th grade at both middle schools. That course is being proposed as an elective for 8th grade. Digital media is being modified and revised. It's going to maintain the basics of Photoshop, but then it's going to be going more into the video editing realm of media. Our art department has proposed a class called Working as an Artist, as we try to expose students not just to curriculum that prepares them for college, but gives them an idea of different careers. They're taking a look at how does art, what careers are related to artists and artistry, and they're going to be looking at things like graphic design, digital photography, architect and urban design, and visual artwork. They're pretty excited about this, and they actually worked with the high school art department into a new course that the high school is going to be also proposing, which I'll get to in a second. And so the two classes really marry each other and relate well. And the last one, excuse me?
Should I go talk them out of those careers?
And the last one is architecture and design, and this is a class that's just being modified. The class is currently called interior design. They'd like to add more STEM-related activities, so they're going to be doing some work with CAD and 3D printing, in addition to the interior piece of it. So it's just an upgrade. Any questions on those middle school classes?
Will any of with these additions, will anything be no longer offered?
There are some courses that are not going to be offered, but not because of these additions, but because of the middle school proposal for a new schedule, which we'll talk about later this evening. And then the high school has multiple courses as well. A leadership and life skills course, where one of our fantastic new hires who's in the fire department, who's really passionate about creating leaders in all students, and then also building in literacy, collaboration, and research into learning more about how to be leaders. Digital photography and graphic design, this is a new course for our art department. Again, they created this class in partnership with the middle school so that we could have a nice transition from middle to high. Mr. Jeff DeGlapper is proposing robotics. We know robotics has been very popular at the middle school. Our robotics club is very popular at the high school. This is another way for students who are interested in that to have some exposure to that STEM. Very excited about Introduction to Business from UW Oshkosh through the CAP program, and that would be in our business department. And as we talked last year, some of our high school teachers have the credentials to teach college level coursework. They have master's degrees in their content area, and so we have multiple people in our business department with master's degrees in business, and so we're really excited to bring Introduction to Business to their department for our students thinking about business careers. And then the last section is just identifying some name changes happening at the high school. Curriculum is not changing, it's just a better way of advertising what the course is. So concert band is going to be changed to warrior band. Symphonic band, white, just to symphonic band. The red band is going to be symphonic winds and percussion. And then our CNC class, they just want to add the word coding because coding is such a big part of the class and it's not really represented in the current title. Any questions on the high school courses?
As to the leadership and life skills, I guess I'm just having a hard time figuring out what that course is. So is this, under what grouping is the class?
It would be an elective credit.
Okay.
So it's not going to be within any content area, similar to AVID, for example. I can pull up their course description and give you more detail if you're interested in that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second, please. So the course goal is to provide a consistent approach to character and leadership development. It's going to target cognitive, emotional, and behavioral aspects of being a leader. Let me just fast forward to the course syllabus. Topics include character traits, Attitude, developing goals and priorities, the importance of education, showing respect, building positive reputation, honesty, developing personal values, handling peer pressure, having courage, role models, appreciation, managing anger and aggression, positive communication skills, empathy, expressing gratitude, cultural competence, tolerance, citizenship, sacrifice, addressing bullying, becoming a leader, employability and workplace skills, and strong role model and character.
And of course, the resources, is this a textbook store? What's the?
Yep. The team is looking at a curriculum that already exists, but they believe they can probably write the curriculum themselves. So we have a budget amount there for a curriculum. If we choose to buy it canned, but we may be writing it ourselves based on those topics.
Semester-long course?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Buckmaster, what was your impression of this being on the CPC?
How does this actually compare? I think the question I had was like, can you identify how this compares to Avid?
Oh, completely different.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the general, I can't recall what that, but what would be the best way to differentiate?
Sure.
I guess.
Avid helps prepare students by reinforcing their study skills and their grit. And it works on how do you solve problems academically, and how do you attack complex text, and what is the best way to organize. So it's all about being a good student, whereas this is all about building character that could relate to being a good student, but just being a good person, being a good community member. Being a leader.
I mean, take a look at it, give feedback, and they go forth with their process. They have everything right.
So in the CPC, do you guys take notes in your CPC?
We do.
Could I see whatever you guys covered on this too?
Sure. Yep. Yeah, some of the questions that we asked related to the rigor of the class, and we went back to the author to talk about, how will this be rigorous? He came back and talked about the reading and writing and the research and the communication skills and the plan for that. Todd, were you coming up here to speak more?
Yeah, if I can answer any questions.
Okay.
This is a great area of passion for me, so if there's something I can help clarify, would love to.
Well, I guess the thing that's bouncing around my head is, the outcome is something we all want. We want kids to be leaders and all that. Just questioning how you get them there, through a class.
Semester-long class.
Yeah, lack of a better word, it seems too squishy for me. But that's why I wanted to see, the notes and discussion and,
And I'm just going to say that from my perspective, I don't know if I'd call it a concern, but I guess my wondering is, oh my gosh, aren't we doing this in every class that we're teaching here? Because I sure would hope so. And if we're not, we should be. But I think we are. So I'm just perplexed why we would have it, to me, segregated out, where I would want to see every single teacher in this building nurturing, reading, writing, speaking, listening, all of the, adjectives and adverbs I see here.
All great questions, and I appreciate all of that. So I guess I'll look at it maybe as like an AP leadership class. So let's look at all the different levels of options we have for kids who have different strengths and passions. And again, speaking very biased, having come and spent time in a master's program around leadership and spent a lot of time researching, can you grow and develop leadership? Is it a skill set? And I think about the challenges that we face in our building and how do we take young adults who sometimes struggle to make good decisions. I think about our commitment around drug and alcohol awareness, and I think about the power that we have and the opportunity that we have to help. Probably the most influential source on kids are their peers. And how do we help arm kids with the skills they need to say no to peer pressure? How do we arm kids with the skills to say no to social media? I received a text with a photo of a student in a compromised situation. do I tell an adult? Do I tell the kid who sent it, this isn't okay? And I think we're all in agreement that our kids struggle with these decisions, and I would love to tell you I have confidence it's covered in all of our classes, but I think it's a target that we need more of. Even if it is covered, even if a teacher does take time in their content area to specifically focus on what are the strategies that I can do as a person to reflect on my strengths, on my own personal character, to be the voice who stands up to a group of peers, to speak against someone who's making fun of someone else. There's all these things that we see as adults as we walk through this building, or I think I used the example in CPC, when we stand in front of a student bleacher filled with 1,000 kids, and they start a chant that is a negative one, that's reflective of our community and our school system that we cherish so dearly, and the difference of the feeling of standing in front of that 1,000 and knowing that there's 20 to 25 students who chose to dedicate themselves to being warrior leaders that we can look at, and we know that we've given them some skills and some tools to help lead that peer group in a more positive way. And again, it's hard because I think sometimes we put things in categories, and I think about some of the earlier classes we look at, or we had some conversations around, is this different than an art class? Is it different than this class? We have students who will pursue professions of leadership. There's no doubt about that. We know that there's research out there that there are leadership skills and strategies that help people to be more effective. So why wouldn't we give our students the opportunity to better develop those skills when we know that one of the most influential things in students' lives are their peers? So let's help arm some of our warriors with a great caring adult who will dedicate a semester of time by the choice of the kid, and we promote choice to give those kids a chance to pursue something that might help them be better citizens in our building. So we believe there's great value. There's other districts that are doing it and are speaking extremely positively. So again, the question around which curriculum would we use, this is something that's working very successfully in multiple other districts around the state, districts that we perceive are very similar to ours. Kimberly is the district that we've probably had the best experience with, and there's some folks who speak very positively about the impact it's had within their student population. And the teacher also happens to be committed around literacy. So the questions that we're asked around, are all those instructional strategies happening in other classes? Yes, they are, but that's also what made this the right person for this class, is they're going to utilize the right instructional strategies to keep this class rigorous, to make sure it's reflective, to make sure the students are engaged in work that's not just about leadership. It's going to be reinforcing the academic skills that will help them be successful in other places as well. Any other questions?
Probably, but I'm not.
Please ask when they come up.
Thanks, Todd.
Any other questions for any of these ones that were brought up?
Yeah, real briefly. So we're adding some rigor to basically our programming, games, and I assume that they will be adjusting the programming further down in the high school level as the kids progress. Will we be seeing that coming as well, or
Sure.
is it going to be basically the same things, just a more advanced version of a particular program or a particular software package?
It's a good question. In the next agenda item for the middle school schedule phase 1, there's a document in there that's called Middle School Encore and High School Connections that outlines the courses that are being proposed and all middle school elective courses. How do they relate to high school, and what would the natural progression of students, if they're interested in that topic, what would it be? And beginning next year, all of the elective departments start the PDSA cycle, which is when they look at their curriculum and update it. So updates will be coming from the high school, either next year or the year after, just depending on that process and the length.
Okay. Look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
So Christy, on that leadership and life skills, could you send the syllabus and then I know the packet that has to be filled out? I'd like to see that too. Thank you.
Sure. I'll also send our notes and our rubric.
Okay, great.
Can we send that to all of us, please?
I sure can.
I'd like to see it.
I have to put all of it together, but yeah.
I saw it all in the link you sent.
Part A and B.
And thank you to the committee. I know this is a ton of work, and these are a lot coming forward, so I know that this was really involved, and I appreciate all the time and energy that went into it.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I've just got one, which was, so what was the, not that I'm opposed, but the band change, so what was that? So we go from 4 bands to 3? Is that what this is here, or?
Well, nothing is changing from quantity-wise or curriculum-wise.
Okay.
It's just current classes and title changes of those classes.
So then we have concert band, symphonic band white, symphonic band red, and there's still a weapon ensemble, so there's still 4?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
They're not changing the title of that, of the
Okay,
wind
so that's still
ensemble.
the 4, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right, okay, I'm fine.
And choir is changing also, right?
Yes,
Choir-
they did.
Yeah, choir changed the names of their choirs.
Okay.
Right. Well, some of them. But some of the choir names stayed the same, but some of them changed. Right.
So since we're talking about band stuff, now our marching band, that's a class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, it's not a class.
Well, is it, or, what, is it?
Well,
No, you're required to be in band. So whatever band you're in.
You're required to
you're
be in
you're
marching
required-
band.
Right, so,
If you're in band.
right.
If you're in any
so,
band,
yeah.
so you're required to be in marching band. Marching band is just, do they?
Part of the, yeah,
Part of the deal.
yep. But they have the marching band camp,
Band
which
camp.
is part of
In the
summer
summer.
school. They have
Yeah,
the 3
one time.
days of pre-camp and then the full week after, so that's the credit, or they get a half, right, so that's where the bulk of that practice comes in.
So are they required to, like, okay, so they have to be at the summer thing, do they have to be at all the events, like every Friday night, is that part of their thing, or?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, any other questions on this? What's the next step on that?
It'll come back for action, so if there's any questions prior to the next time, please let us know and get you the answers so that
What's your
you're
deadline on
prepared.
this, that you need approval?
No, well, our next meeting is November, what is it, 6th?
We'll be coming back to the next meeting for approval, so that we can get it in the course catalogs, which will be coming
So
2
when
weeks
is that?
after.
2 weeks after?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that 3 weeks? 2?
So we have to approve this next meeting to get it in there?
It would be our intention to bring it back for approval at the next meeting.
Then we have, the next meeting after that is November 20th. It's just, if you're fine with everything else and that one is kind of dangling there, we could, see how that goes from a standpoint
It's
of
more,
printing.
and it's not necessarily that, it's more of the policy or matrix that we typically as a board don't like things brought forward that have to be approved at that time frame. Not saying that this is one of them that would have issues, but say there was one in there, just that we like that cushion built in there, just so keep that in mind going forward, that kind of maybe back it up a meeting, because that gives us that extra meeting for approval, and we're not sitting at a meeting being told, well, you have to approve this tonight because
Yeah.
it's gotta meet printer's deadline or something.
And
like that.
we can push it off a week or a meeting if we
And
need
and
to.
like I said, not
Yeah.
necessarily that that's happening in this case, I just from a structural
Yeah.
standpoint, that extra.
November 20th is still fine if there's 1 or 2 things that you wanted to
Okay.
think about.
I lost my board docs. All right, moving on, discussion item 11C, middle school schedule, phase 1 proposal. This should be fun.
I'm presenting with a team, so I'm switching spots here. So tonight, we're really excited to share our proposal for Phase 1 of a new middle school schedule. Phase 1 will be course offerings provided by grade level to ensure guaranteed curriculum for our students. Phase 2 will be related to the minutes per class period, minutes per day, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have any expectations of bringing phase 2. in the near future. Right now, we're most interested in getting our courses lined up. And then as we're able to do more research related to minutes of classes and our literacy pilot has more time to work with its new curriculum so that we can make sure we're making an educated decision on minutes per period, we would be bringing that forward probably not until spring or summer next year. So off in the distance and not for the 2018-19 school year. So as you recall, one of the things that really grounded our work was the vision of the graduate. And as we took a look at our desired state and our current state, 3 areas sort of rose to the top as being gaps. Our educators identify that and our parents identify that. And so it was STEM, financial literacy, career, and health and wellness. And so as we approached a new middle school schedule and a proposal that aligns our middle school classes to our current high school offerings and connects to our district's education for employment plan. Lastly, it addresses the elementary to middle school transition.
So just to review our timeline, the only updated piece is August to October. And we had gathered parent feedback at our Forms and Fees night at Lake Danoon and Bay Lane. The new modified course proposals went through CPC. And that's where we are now. Any questions on the timeline? Then our 5th grade classes, we'd have the same core classes, physical education, which is an every other day all year course. Our Art 5 class would stay the same, general music would stay the same, and technology exploration would also stay the same. Our animation and games class, which you heard about through the CPC process, would replace or revise one of our current courses. It would include the keyboarding that is currently in place and then add in animation and games, which is rooted in the coding and comes from code.org. And then a proposal for a transition advisory period, which would be every other day all year, in place of our Exploring World Language 5 and in place of our FACE 5 class, Family and Consumer Science 5 class. Yeah.
It says each school will name this period that it's culture. Do you guys have an exam? I'm just curious what it would sound like.
Be like Wolfpack for Lake Danoon. Is it official yet? Do we know what it is for a mascot?
But it would be something tied in with the mascot name.
Kind of like the Warriors Way version
School.
of the middle.
Is it a school?
Like an onboarding for our 5th graders. So. And then at the 6th grade level, we have the same core classes. The PE, the Art 6 would remain the same. Innovations is a current class, but it would just be one now that all 6th graders would have access to. Dollars and Cents, again, is a revised course that includes parts of Financial Park merged with Dollars and Cents. Becoming Independent is essentially what was our Family and Consumer Science 5 class mixed with Kids Biz to become a new course, Becoming Independent. And then the music course, we have the band and choir, which is every other day, and then General Music 6, which is a quarter-long class. And so to make that align with our other music offerings, we had the idea of the personalized learning project. Instead of forcing kids into a general music for an entire semester, or a semester course essentially every other day, we thought they could take a personalized learning approach to service learning or something with the community. But it would be in the same cohort as the general music course.
And then in 7th grade, there's really 4 options, and you're going to see those same headings for 8th grade as well. I'm going to start kind of on the opposite side. If you look at the right side, it's band and choir and world language. What remains the same is there's 6 quarters worth of electives that 7th and 8th graders have time in their schedule for. And if you're in band and choir and world language, that is the 6 quarters. So at Lake Danoon, for 28% of our 7th graders, nothing changes. They're in that category as what they're doing now. Right? Then moving over, going backwards, I guess it would be to the left, there are kids that take a world language but not the band and choir. what they would have is a PE class that then leaves them 2 more electives, because remember, world language uses 4 quarters worth of electives. And those 2 would be a web design class and the Team Cuisine 1 class, which would build upon the Family and Consumer 6 class, the Becoming Independent class, would just go deeper into food preparation sort of things.
Linda, both of those, web design and team cuisine, are opposite the PE day?
Right.
So it's one is one semester, one is the other semester?
Exactly. Right. PE, we looked into that. PE is required to be all year long, every other day. All right, moving further to the left yet, the band and choir, but without a world language. So that means they're going to have 4 electives. And that gives them an exploratory wheel. We've moved health to 7th grade. We do think that's a better spot for it in terms of the sorts of things that we want to help them avoid as they get closer to that high school age. Also, we talked about the careers and community class that was recommended. The intermediate art class is essentially Art 7 from 6 years ago now. And the robotics class is a class that we have had previously, and we just find that 7th grade is a great developmental stage for them in the exploration of robotics. And then finally, in the column furthest to the left, these are students who are not in band, choir, or world language, so they have the whole menu of all 6 of them that we just talked about from the last 2 blocks. Any questions about any of those?
This Health 7 is, you said you moved from 8th?
Yes. We'll also have, based on our numbers this year, we would have more students involved in health than we have in the past. And I think especially when you look at some of the opioid issues in the county, it's a better place to have it at a younger age as well. Plus, we'll get more.
And that's required?
It would be part of the exploratory wheel.
Is it required right now?
It is not required.
A health class?
No, it's not, I think in high school is it required?
High school it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freshman year, or summer before
The
freshman.
summer.
Right.
So Linda, for the band choir, if they choose to take it, it's all year long?
Yes.
Okay.
Every other day.
Right. Because I know we've had concerns in the past where someone could just kind of dip in for like a shorter period of time and then come out.
I haven't had that experience,
Okay.
but I wonder if they drop it, if they decide they don't want to play an instrument anymore.
But the idea is that once you go in, you're in for the
right,
year.
you're committed to an ensemble, which is a teamwork
Right.
sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's what we would hope.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then we'll look at 8th grade, which is going to look very similar. Again, the headings across the top are exactly what you saw in the other, for 7th grade. The difference here is this is where we do open it up. Remember that in 7th grade, we really still wanted them, and it's certainly appropriate, age appropriate, for them to be exploring, because they're figuring out who they are, what they're even good at, and they surprise themselves and us a lot of times. Now in 8th grade, we are opening it up for more choice again, and the courses that you see are a combination of courses that we've already offered, and then also the new courses that were described tonight as 8th grade level courses. And with the addition of Avid 8, that would also be new. I don't know if that was in tonight's or if that was a previous one. It was tonight, okay. Great.
A question for you
Yeah.
on the options that have electives. Band and choir is opposite PE for band and choir and world language. Okay, that makes sense. Well, and same with the where they're taking band and choir. For those 2 that don't have band and choir, what's happening the opposite days of PE? Is that one of the electives?
In this particular case, this would be like the 3rd column over.
Well, the 1st and the 3rd.
1st and the 3rd.
Yeah.
That would be some of those electives. It's more similar to what we're doing now.
So some of them are structured to be an every other day thing around PE?
Yes, they would all be we think they'll all have to be
it's getting a little disconnect trying to get this all, because you got the PE every other day and the band and math, and
Yep.
what do you fill in there?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Very true.
Lynn, I'm sorry to
Yes.
hop around. Can we go back to 6th grade?
Sure.
The music, so band, choir, or general music, so they would take one of
Yes.
those?
That's required by the state.
It is
They
required?
have a music class.
A
in
music
sixth
class,
grade.
okay.
Right, and what we saw a lot of districts do is do general music all year, every other day. And in our conversations with Dr. Thompson, she really questioned, if it's not their passion, is that the best place for them?
And that's where I was going with that,
Which is
yeah.
exactly
Okay.
why, opposite of that, we want to have them have a passion area for them to, in the personalized learning project.
We
Thank
also
you.
saw a lot of districts that just you had to choose band or
That's
choir.
true, too.
You didn't
Mhm.
have that third option.
Which is, to me, a little dicey, because now we're talking about a performance group.
Right.
And if your heart's not there.
Right. Well, I didn't know it was required,
It
because
is.
I think I was probably on the same line as Dr. Thompson. If by 6th grade, I wondered if 6th grade, all of a sudden you took 6th grade music and said, oh, I love this. I'm really good at this.
Yeah,
I think you would know it by then. No.
Did you say there's some districts that only offer the band or choir?
We saw that.
Because my understanding when we first did the big major change about 7 or 8 years ago was that state law said we had to have a general music option.
Yeah, we were not in compliance at that point.
We were or weren't?
We were not.
So how are
Prior
these
to
other
that-
districts not in compliance if they're only offering band or
Well,
choir?
that is a music class. That's considered a music. It doesn't have to be general music, it just has to be a music
Oh,
class.
so the general music class, we can, because all of our students were taking band or choir, we were told we had to offer a general music.
Actually, they weren't. At Lake Danoon, I can speak to the fact that they were taking a language or an enrichment class, it was called, that was more literacy enrichment, if they weren't in band and choir.
Okay,
That was
because the
one
way
thing.
I
But
understood
general
it was.
music, up through 5th grade has to be offered, right? They have to have a general music option. So if we had band and choir or whatever at 5th grade, we would still have to offer this general music, right?
I don't remember about that. Because this is the 6th grade piece.
Yeah. But this is 6th grade, yeah.
Yeah.
And they can have the band and the choir.
Okay, any other, yeah?
We might have covered this in previous meetings, so I apologize, but is there at any point, whether it's 7th or 8th grade, that if they are in a sport, that PE can ever be opted out of, so they can take other electives? Or is that just not an option?
And it's not something we have in place now?
High school.
In high school,
Do you
but if you
want
ever
to
talk
speak to
about,
that?
A lot of our 8th graders do that.
But to
In
take it
the
during
summer
the summer?
before.
They'll take the summer before. Yeah, I mean, there's other options for taking, but not because you're in a sport, because we really don't, well, we have basketball, I guess. There's a couple sports in middle school, most of them are all club outside the school system.
Actually, it works out quite well in the summer.
It does.
I mean, for the freshmen and sophomores, it's fantastic. I mean, really.
But to answer your question, no.
And there is an opt-out in the high school. I think for part of it at least, if they're, yeah.
The state allows us to have a waiver for students at the high school, but nothing is open up to middle school yet.
Anything else on the 8th grade? Okay, then this is just a general overview, kind of circling back where Christy had us started. When we put this together and with all the surveys and coming back around and revising multiple times, we really feel like it does strongly support the vision of a graduate. We feel like we did an okay job with the guaranteed core STEM, financial literacy, career exploration, health and wellness. We put that only as medium because of a somewhat unique situation in our district of having Spanish 1 in 7th grade. Once they have that and band, we would not tell kids they could only pick one or two of those, or only one of those. So now that locks them into those as their electives. So once they get to 7th grade, we can't guarantee it. I think we're doing a much better job with the exploratory part overall, but not guaranteed for all kids because of that choice. And then just applying, having kids explore, like I said, so appropriate for the middle level, and being responsive to what it means for their development, and then just thinking ahead for their futures too. And all the time through this, keeping it cost neutral, or as close to cost neutral as we could.
Linda?
Yeah.
When you first started talking, you said it helps, I think it was you, maybe it was Rachel, that it helps bridge the gap from elementary to middle
Fifth
school.
grade? Mhm.
How is this helping bridge that gap?
That would be the fifth grade transition advisory period. And there are some specific team building sort of things that our classroom teachers do, but that this period would also allow us to do. It gives them more time in their core classes, so we can get a solid foundation there as well, because they're now hopping between teachers for math and literacy, where it used to be housed in just one. And the things that have, I don't want to really say interfere, but taken away from that core instruction, like all the STAR testing that we do, the DARE class, the library classes, we're going to put all of that into this period, so the classroom teachers can really focus on those without having it interrupted with some of the other things that are still really worthwhile and I think important for our kids. It'll also be things that have to do with the culture and the social emotional learning as well, and the problem solving, how to handle it when you're called out in Foursquare and you don't think you're actually out. So just trying to really acclimate them to our building, to our culture of respect and responsibility.
I don't know, at a recent leadership team meeting, we looked at some research on when kids transition and how they lose ground academically, and how important it is to build their relationships with each other, teachers, predictability for routines, expectations.
So in seventh grade, the student would not be able to take world language, band, and choir.
Right, they can't do that now either.
Okay.
Because of the FIAD requirements.
Right, and that probably remains the same in eighth then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
We do have a couple students now in Baleen who are in like the musical, but in band, or in choir, but in jazz band, some opportunities like that that we worked through, but it's not the same.
How many in the high school are band and choir?
How many, the crossover?
Is it like over 2 dozen, or is it?
I would, and that's just a guess, but I would guess at least half.
There seems to be quite a bit.
Right.
I would guess that too.
Of crossover, sure.
Chris, at Baleen right now are kids who are not in world language and take band and choir. We have 7 in 8th grade.
And we're similar like that. Yeah,
And that's doable, where you can do band and choir, and then you're just out of a world language, I guess, until high school. So, just looking at this, going through all the minutes and the notes, and it's just a tough, unless you increase the time of the day, I don't know what you can fit in here.
And if you're willing to throw cost neutral out the window, because that's what happens, we tried that model.
You will, because right, there's a cost, and that's the impact. And, but I guess, for my part, as long as, I suppose there's the ability to take band and choir, and if that option is to wait on foreign language, and that's a choice that'll have to be made, given what I've seen here, so.
There's no 0-hour option in the middle school?
We talked about jazz band, so it could be part of that instead of band. So you could take choir, world language, and then come early for jazz band in the morning.
There is that now?
There is that now. It's a club, though. It's not a class. It's not every day. It's every other day for us for one semester. And then the musical, too, if they try out and get into the musical, would be the other option.
That's an interesting thought, where if there was jazz band, and it was a class, I don't know what grade you'd started in, and then what, you'd have to be in here just like at the
Well,
high school.
Jasmine's been offered at least at Baylane most of the years.
Is it
There was
offered at?
one year,
Lake to Noon offered the last 2 years, so very
Is it-
recent, yeah.
going on at Baylane now?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that well attended, or is it?
I'm surprised at the number of
Really?
middle
Are you?
schoolers that get up at 7
Okay,
in the morning.
yeah, because that would have been because their parents
Yeah.
have to get them there, so.
I think it's
Just
at
gets them
least
ready
2
to get here at
dozen.
6:30.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good training.
so, okay, well, that's interesting.
I know we do have kids doing lessons in the morning.
I mean, that's one option then too. I mean, you could take choir, foreign language, and then jazz band. I mean, if you really had that option, or if you really had that passion. You would, right, there is some option here that would enable them to at least delve into their passion somewhat to prepare them for high school either way. I mean, from what I'm hearing and as long as jazz band is an option, that even just adds to the option, or the pathway that they could take, so. Yeah, so, okay.
Anything else? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
So come back
Thanks for sticking around.
next meeting.
I have no problem with this, Rick, so.
Okay. Moving on to item 12, information follow-up, alternative revenue update. Anything you want to add to that?
Nope. Kind of stagnant right now.
Personnel information memorandums there. I just got one question on that. We have a teacher resigning right now. Is that kind of odd?
Yes, it's very odd for our system, yes.
And do we have damages on that?
Mhm.
And I assume the new district is paying them and moving on?
I'm not sure if the district is paying.
But we're going after our damages
Yes,
at least.
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
I just have one request on information follow-up. Jeremiah had mentioned during the annual meeting that the Shills house was, she was going to be staying there until December, I think.
Yeah.
After she moves out, I would like to have a discussion about what we're going to do with that property.
Thought you were moving in. Or did you change it?
No, I think man,
Caretaker position.
I hear it's a nice house.
Any other information requests? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.